Building a portfolio with Fidelity Basket Portfolios is kind of like making a sandwich. It's as simple as picking your stocks and ETFs, sort of like your meats and other topics, and managing it as one big, juicy investment. Now that's pretty good. Learn more at fidelity.com/baskets. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
The Red Apple Media Podcast Network presents This is Protecting America. Now, here's Emmy-winning journalist Rita Cosby.
And welcome to another edition of Protecting America. New York City is now suing 30 New York counties for what the city says is, quote, illegally walling off their borders to asylum seekers. This comes as Mayor Eric Adams says that they will soon place migrants in houses of worship and likely in, get this, private residences. Is that insane and downright dangerous? Well, joining us now is New York Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. So great to have you here, Congresswoman.
It's great to be with you, Rita. Thank you.
What's your reaction to New York City suing other counties because they don't want the model that they're seeing in New York City?
You know, the mayor should really be suing the Biden administration for allowing these open borders. You've seen states like Texas and Florida take action and sue the administration to try to put in place policies, border security policies, and proper protocol that would bring order to the border. Instead, what you see is, you know, our mayor suing counties that don't want to take migrants from New York City. Now, the president created this problem, as we know. He rescinded the policies of President Trump that were stemming the flow at the border. So certainly that's one way we can fix it, right? Making sure the president is either not reelected next year or push him this year to get something done. And we plan as Republicans to continue to use the border process, use the budget process, use the appropriation process to try to push him to take some action. The second thing is Senator Schumer has the ability to pass the border security bill that we passed in the House. And this bill streamlines the asylum process. It adds visas for certain industry. It also protects children that are unaccompanied minors, but it also really implements a lot of the border security measures that we've been talking about, right? Remain in Mexico, completing the border wall, making sure the CBP agents have the tools that they need to do their job, what they've asked us for, okay? They asked for more training, more staff members, more resources to be able to actually do their job and secure the border. But Senator Schumer and the Senate, they just won't take up our bill, but they won't pass their own bill either. They've done absolutely nothing, which makes it very difficult for us to fix this through the legislative process. And the third person that I think is responsible, at least locally here, is the mayor, because the mayor chose to misinterpret New York City's right to shelter policy that was put in place in 1979 by court decree, and it was intended for homeless citizens, homeless New Yorkers, not citizens of other countries who just strolled into our country through the border last week. And so I've been saying this for some time now, that the mayor made a mistake and he should go to court and seek clarification to stop doing what he's been doing. And he actually has done that. He has gone to court to try to stop the right to shelter. So we'll see what happens with that. But as we know, it's before a Manhattan judge, and I'm not sure if liberal politics will come into play in the court as well. So really, those three individuals created the problem that we're seeing today. And quite frankly, they can fix it.
We're talking so much about also so many of these cities and states that are sanctuary. You look at what's happening in New York City, and now they're wondering, well, why are they coming to New York City? As you know, they're coming because, A, it's a great city, but also they know they're going to get free stuff.
Yeah, the mayor just made it worse by providing free housing. Why would you go anywhere else if you can come to New York City, one of the most expensive cities on the planet, and live rent-free? So it certainly is encouraging individuals to come here, and also what we should note is that if you look at the court data, roughly 60% to 2/3 of the individuals that are claiming asylum do not have legitimate cases. That's what we've seen in Biden's first year in office. So we know that people are exploiting our country's generosity, claiming asylum just to get in when they know that they don't qualify. Because remember, now there's individuals from roughly 100 different countries. Now, my parents are immigrants, as you know, and no one paid their rent when they came. They worked multiple jobs. They worked really had it difficult, but they survived on their own without any government assistance, and they were able to achieve their American dream. There is a solution here, right? But it has to start with border security. We can talk about more employer-sponsored visas to get people. We have a labor shortage. We can use more individuals that want to come here and work and contribute to our society. We can talk about more employer-sponsored visas. We certainly should be talking about education visas. Kids come here, they get educated, and then they go home and bring their talents and education to another country. We should be focusing on some of that as well, but it has to start with border security first. Because if we don't stem as we know, there's a 10-year log at the New York City courthouse for immigration. So that's just only going to continue to get worse as long as Joe Biden keeps this open border.
Are you astounded, too, that millions have literally crossed under this president, including 1 million gotaways? Those are the ones we have no idea who they are.
That's absolutely correct, and it should be concerning, particularly to us in New York City in a post-9/11 world. What happened in Afghanistan was a tragedy, the withdrawal. We know that there were 5,000 inmates, terrorists, that were kept at the Bagram Air Base. They've been released. We don't know their whereabouts. That, coupled with an open border, should be concerning. And it should be concerning considering that they caught around 200 individuals already trying to enter our country. One was an Iranian national who was caught in the interior of the country. At least one, right? Knowing that there are 1.2 million gotaways out there that evaded our Customs and Border Patrol agents, evaded our government altogether, should be a concern to everyone. And national security has to be the utmost priority here. We also know that the drug cartels, let's talk about narco-terrorism, they are killing Americans. And they are profiting tremendously over this human trafficking and the drug trafficking. And just last week, they found enough fentanyl in Arizona, right near the border, to kill about 45 million Americans. All right. And we know that the drug cartels have created an operation within the United States, because there were 3,300 arrests that the Drug Enforcement Administration made over the past year of people who were part of this network that they've created here in the United States. How are they getting here? Of course, through our open border. So if we want to get serious about protecting Americans, whether it be from fentanyl or from terrorism or from crime, then we need to secure the border. We need to know who is coming in our country and what reason they're coming in for. And I'll also point out something else that's disturbing about New York City. They have city and state officials have tied the hands of our NYPD. So they can no longer cooperate with federal detainer requests. Now, think about it. And they did this during the Trump administration because they claimed that Trump wanted to deport everyone. Of course, that was not true. He was going after people who had broken the law. But now, if this president is requesting a detainer request, if his administration is requesting a detainer request to remove you from the country, that means you did something pretty bad. All right? You're probably wanted for murder in another country, or you committed a sex crime, or you've broken our laws over and over again. And for this administration, who has been so lax, right, we want to deport you. And still, we're not cooperating. Majority of the requests that come to New York City are being denied by the NYPD at the direction of the mayor and the governor and the state legislature.
This episode is brought to you by Tic Tac. Summer tastes like Tic Tac. Tantalize your taste buds this sunny season with citrus adventure and orange. 2 everyday flavors that bring summer in every. Tic Tac Citrus Adventure is a yummy, vibrant medley of lemon, lime, and mandarin. And Tic Tac Orange is the perfect mix of tangy and sweet. Visit us at Tic Tac USA on social to refresh your summer with Tic Tac.
This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino. A meal isn't just about what's on your plate. It's about what you bring to the table. San Pellegrino believes the table is where the best of life happens. That's what makes gathering around it so rich and rewarding. And with their unique, sparkling natural mineral water, San Pellegrino brings its best so you could bring yours.
Wow, that is stunning, because just like you said, this administration has been so lax. Why do you think they're not even working on that level? I mean, that's amazing.
It's totally outrageous. I mean, it really is. And these were policies that were put in place by the city council and the state legislature in law. As a matter of fact, one of the things the city council did was they kicked out ICE from the Rikers Island. Now, who's going to Rikers Island these days with the crazy bail law that we have in New York State? It's the worst of the worst. You've got people, accused of murder, of rape, of the worst assaults. Those are the people who are actually going to Rikers, and yet we still would not cooperate with detainer requests in the vast majority of cases. And this is something that needs to be changed, but how do we change it if the very people who put it in place are still the ones in control of our state government and our city council?
What is your message to Eric Adams? Especially on one hand, he's saying, give me more money, federal government. But just like you said, it would be great to hear him say, close the border.
The Democrat solution is always to ask for more money. It's never to just solve the problem, to stop the flow, to put in place policies that are preventive, that would address at the root cause. Their solution is always give us more money. So, Justin Brannan, who is the council member from Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, who overlaps with my district, and he is the finance chair, and he and the council speaker were in Washington this week asking for more money so they can continue to convert more, whether it's schools or churches or hotels into shelters, whether it's this new plan to put these individuals in your home, right, and pay rent so they can live rent-free. They're asking for more money to continue doing what they're doing, which has upset so many New Yorkers. And I represent a community, right, that is made up of a very diverse district. We have immigrants from all over the world in my district, right? And when I talk to these immigrant communities, they are the ones that are most upset about it because they came here following our rules. They never asked for anything except for an opportunity. No one gave them free rent, free housing. Nobody gave them free food or health care. They just came, they worked hard, and they were able to succeed and achieve their American dreams. So it's a real slap in the face, not just American citizens who are homeless while migrants are getting, free hotel rooms, but it is a slap in the face to all those immigrants who followed the laws and came appropriately. And that I think is really upsetting. But what my question to Eric Adams would be, where's your compassion for the taxpaying citizens? Where's your compassion for the person who is struggling, working multiple jobs to keep a roof over their head, paying their rent, struggling paying their mortgage, struggling to keep up with the property taxes, like people in my district in Staten Island, Southern Brooklyn, who see their property tax bills increase year after year because the city is always increasing the levy to collect more money. Where's your compassion for them that now you want to use their tax dollars to give free rent to somebody who entered our country illegally last week?
Yeah, it does not make any sense. And also, what about homeless veterans? I mean, the price also, by the way, and you probably know this, I think it's for New York, it's $40 a night, by the way, for foster kids. And yet they are paying, I think it's $125 is what they will pay for houses of worship. And it's $380 for a hotel room for migrants. And then again, where's the issue with homeless veterans? I don't hear them on the plate. I mean, it just seems so out of proportion. The average citizen is saying, wait a minute, what about America first?
Yeah, look, the city, unfortunately, under Democratic rule has just been completely backwards. I mean, look what they're doing right now with these new vending machines where they're going to give free drug paraphernalia. They call it a drug prevention program. How do you call it a drug prevention program and you're giving free drug paraphernalia, including crack pipes, okay, to addicts to just to further encourage their habit? At $11,000 a machine, that has to be, it was emptied, by the way, in the first couple of hours because they go and take the stuff and now they're trying to sell it in exchange for drugs. So think about the stupidity that we're seeing under one-party Democrat rule. We have to change the course in this city, and people have to start recognizing that you can't keep voting for the same people that support these policies over and over again. We've seen a change in my district, I'll tell you. We flipped a Democratic seat last year that had been a Democratic seat for decades to a Republican seat with Sam Pirozzolo. We won 3 assembly seats in southern Brooklyn that were longtime assembly members. They finally were defeated. People who voted for the bail law, by the way, okay, they voted for these policies that everyone hates, and the people in Brooklyn finally said enough, and they kicked them out, and they replaced them with Republicans who want to repeal those policies. So we're making those incremental steps, but it's simply not enough. And I think the most important thing is people to be engaged in how your representatives are voting and what kind of policies that they support. Because they'll say one thing in the district, and then they'll turn around and vote another way, like we saw when Councilman Justin Brennan in Brooklyn and others, they voted to cut $1 billion from the NYPD, 1/6 of the NYPD budget. And then they have the audacity to go to the district and say how much they love our police and love the NYPD.
Yeah, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth for sure. You brought up earlier also, Congresswoman, about staying in private residences. The mayor said, that is a possibility that they may put migrants up in private residences, like pay people that, if you have an extra basement or something like that. To me, that just seems so downright dangerous. As you point out, we don't know who these people are. I mean, can you imagine the first lawsuit, and there will be many, if like an MS-13 gang member ends up in some family and does some harm to the family? I mean, this to me is so insane. What is your reaction when you heard the mayor suggest put them up in private residences?
Well, first of all, we have these terrible squatter laws in New York where if somebody stays in a home and they're there for, I believe it's 30 days, that they are entitled to stay there. They can't get kicked out. And so I think you'd have a very tough time, once the city stops paying the rent. If people choose to not pay the rent, you're going to have a hard time getting those tenants out. And we see this across the board right now. We see it happening where there's no rights anymore for landlords, for homeowners. And it was very sad circumstances with constituents who, were facing foreclosure because they couldn't afford to pay their mortgage because their tenant was not paying the rent. These are people who are, middle-class people who, maybe rented a basement or an apartment in their home, and now they may lose their entire home because the tenant does not have to pay the rent, and they've been so protected by our city and state laws. So I think it should be a concern to anyone to enter in this type of a contract. But with that said, the mayor is going to offer you $50,000 a year to house someone. I mean, that's also going to discourage people from working. Why would you take a job where you're making 40, 50 grand if you could just stay home and then rent your an apartment that's available in your home to the city? So it's just a bad idea. The mayor needs to stop this right to shelter and stop misinterpreting it. It was meant for homeless New York citizens, not for citizens of other countries who just strolled in last week, not following our rules, and stop wasting the taxpayers' money this way. At this time where people are struggling so much, high inflation caused by the way, Joe Biden's policies, right, that have is crippling energy, that have increased energy costs, that have increased food costs because the transportation of food is so high now. Instead of trying to find a way to give relief, don't you think the $5 billion that the mayor's spending on this program, $5 billion would be better spent providing relief to hardworking middle-class families who are trying to keep a roof over their head in terms of lowering their property taxes, right? Those outer boroughs, people I represent in Staten Island and Brooklyn, they're not rich people. They are middle-class, hardworking families. They can use relief. Instead, what they're going to get? They're going to get an increased bill for property taxes to pay for this nonsense.
And isn't it dangerous, too?
Of course it's dangerous because they're not vetting. I asked the city, I said, do we know whether anybody in these hotels or in these schools have a criminal record? Oh, we don't know. We've asked, we trust that CBP, we trust that the federal government is vetting them. Really? Well, I don't think CBP has the resources and the manpower to vet millions of people from 100 different countries that have crossed over, plus the 1.2 million gotaways, by the way. So it is a dangerous situation. You don't know, who it is. But this is almost in line with what the state is doing, right? You can't even check people's criminal. They have all these proposals and laws that they're putting out there that they don't even want you to be able to check people's criminal history before you rent an apartment to them. So, it's right up their alley of just stupid policies that do not protect the actual citizens who are law-abiding, tax-paying citizens who actually elected them to represent them.
Yeah, really scary stuff and priorities so out of whack. Well, everybody be sure to subscribe and share to this podcast. And Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, you are terrific. Thanks for all you do to keep our state and our country safe. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rita.
And everybody, I'll be back soon with another great edition of Protecting America. And of course, you can catch me every weeknight, 10 p.m. to midnight on the legendary WABC Radio. This is Rita Cosby, and thanks for all you do to protect America.
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.